Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the Q&A box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is the franchise fame formula, how Remax boosts its local online presence, and it is brought to us by Uberall. Here to provide today's discussion is Christoph Heimel with Remax and Manuel Werneke with Uberall. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to Uberall for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Big pleasure to be here. Hello, Christoph. Happy to run this also with you here in the English version. We did this already in Europe. So yeah, warm welcome also from my side to everyone.
Hello and welcome also from my side. Pleasure to be here. My name is Christoph and I'm responsible for sales and expansion in the Remax European network.
Perfect. I think let's jump right into it and let's make the most out of it. We want to talk a bit about the franchise fame formula as discussed and how Remax is boosting its online presence. But before we jump into the topic, a bit more about ourselves. So just quickly about me, I'm the regional team lead for business development in Europe for the DACH region. That's Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I have the pleasure to be here with Christoph. Christoph, you are responsible, as mentioned, for the sales in Europe, but there is many more that you're doing. Maybe tell us a bit more about the structure you have there and what are you actually doing in rolling out to the different markets in Europe.
Thank you, Manuel. So I'm coming from a little bit of a different background than actually sales or expansion in a classical way. I'm coming more from a technology background. So I was leading technology and then the digital transformation departments in larger corporates, and was also joining Remax a few years ago for the purpose leading the digital transformation in a broader sense across the European network of Remax. This means like about 37 countries, almost 40 countries in Europe, around 2,500 offices. This means we offered a lot of different digital technology to help the network, the regions we're having in their digital transformation and transforming the operations into a more efficient digital setting. I just joined the sales environment a few months ago, so I was having a strong background in bringing the best digital product services and solutions into our network. Yeah.
Thanks, Christoph. I think it's super interesting. And maybe let's go into the topic like who's Uberall, who's Remax before we're going deeper into the main topic of today. So you mentioned it, you are responsible for Remax Europe, but tell us maybe a bit more. Who is Remax? I think in the US it's quite well known. You're in the real estate business, but tell us a bit more about the business model, how you are set up in general in the different markets and the history of Remax.
Okay. So, I mean, the European market is a lot more fragmented like the US market, as an example, since we have so many different countries, cultures, and languages. The situation is very, very diverse. So, as I said before, we are operating in almost 40 countries across Europe. So, almost every European country is covered with a Remax flag, what is quite amazing. And we have around 2,500 offices and more than 30,000 people across those countries working under the Remax umbrella or Remax balloon, so to say. And the setup is quite challenging because we believe in so-called independently owned and operated businesses. So meaning we advise our network in certain things, but the network normally is not obliged to take that advices. So they are free to decide on their own which technology they are using, for example. So we always need to have a very strong sales pitch, let's call it like this, to convince our network of the benefits of a certain new digital solution in that way. So meaning we are working with our almost 40 country organizations, and the almost 40 country organizations work with their around 2,500 office locations like their franchisees. So overall, it's a network of around 2,500 independently owned and operated businesses across Europe, just to express that complexity a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph. I think very interesting setup. And yeah, now who is Uberall? We are multi location marketing platform. So we are working in the space of a local SEO. That means like we are taking care of location data in general, especially like it's about data control and making sure your data is displayed in the correct way on Google, Apple, Bing, and all the other directories that are important to really boost that local SEO, plus the review management on the other side. And we will go into that topic in a moment. Generally speaking about Uberall, we are a worldwide global company nowadays, working in more than 170 countries. We are originally founded in Berlin, a Berlin-based company, but we expanded overseas in all directions nowadays. And before we really go into the topic of like what did we achieve with Remax, let's take a step back and look into why local SEO matters. And when we look in general on Google, we see that there is 1.6 billion local searches every single day, a very, very high number when we're looking just into this. And we're speaking just about local searches here. And 97% of the consumers at the end of the day, they are searching online for local businesses, products or services. I think everyone here knows that feeling that the search starts online and the purchase or the service will be taken offline in most of the cases. And the consumer states that in 68%, at least half of their searches have a local intent. So very, very high attachment to that one. And 42% of the local searches by the consumer led to a real transaction at the store. I think not everyone that searches for real estate here in that case directly purchases, because it's basically the biggest purchase a private person in the B2C area will do. But maybe Christoph, tell us a bit about more. Why is local SEO for Remax and especially the different markets important?
Okay. I mean, first of all, as I said before, in the Google search environment, also in the real estate industry, people are searching mainly online before they get in touch with an agent, for example. So it's like for other industries as well, for us, extremely important to have a professional look and feel in the first place, but also a certain good Google ranking. And this could only come from a reasonable coverage of your online profile, like the Google My Business profile. One thing I have to mention, which is, I think, very different between Europe and the US, for example, is that we have a quite considerable so-called for sales by owner share in Europe. So in US, most of the transactions are really done by real estate agents. In Europe, in many countries, we have a 50-50 split. So like 50% of the real estate transactions are done by the actual owner, and only 50% of the transactions actually by real estate agents. So we are not only competing with a lot of other real estate brands and companies, we are also competing with the actual owners selling the office. So it's even more important to make a professional impression and be really findable on Google My Business or via the Google My Business profile. Other than that, I have to mention that normally the European real estate markets are also extremely fragmented from the agent business perspective. We have in the most countries thousands and thousands of very, very small independent real estate offices. And so you are competing against a very, very wide range of companies. So it's extremely, or even more important, that you have the good Google ranking, and I think this is to be achievable by proper Google My Business profile management with a solution like Uberall.
Exactly. And I think to add on that, as it's one of the biggest purchases every private person is doing, the review management also, like reviews are for you guys very, very important. You spoke about just data control. That's the beginning. But when it comes to trust, as your advice service there, that's also something I think we can put there on top. And that brings us to the next topic, that is what makes the ranking factor. So what are the most important ranking factors on Google at the end? It's in local SEO, we know quite clear what brings us to the top of the map pack in the top three. And everyone knows that when we're looking, when we are searching, and we're not really going to page 3, 4, or 5, we're looking for something on the top that we are trusting, especially on the review side, then when it's a more trustable product. And in the end of the day, we have the Google profile completeness. That's what you mentioned, Christoph. Then on the other side, how much or how fast do I answer on reviews, the cross citations, the links on your website that Google is crawling in the end of the day, the other directories, and then basically the end. This is around more than 80% that we can positively influence with the platform. The rest really is where you're standing, what have you been searching before, and what device you're using. Basically, nobody can really influence that at the end of the day. And when we look at the challenges, online visibility and engagement, Christoph, maybe the word back to you. We see that also something can negatively impact the online visibility. What is it? What you realized during the project and when you went into this topic?
Exactly. So based on what I said in the beginning, the structure with the independently owned and operated businesses, of course, everyone is caring about, as an example, the Google My Business profile at their own. Meaning, also the quality of the Google My Business entries is extremely diverse. So we are lacking in many cases of a complete service description. We are lacking of a good text using the right keywords. We are lacking of doing things corporate identity compliant. We are lacking of having a really complete, proper, standardized kind of setup in the Google My Business environment. We are lacking, as you said before, review management is extremely important. We are lacking of a standardized kind of good quality, responsive review management as well. And a platform like Uberall gave us the opportunity to do all of that centrally from one place, to bring a certain standard of quality into the network for the handling of the individual profiles in the various platforms. Google My Business is in the end only one of the platforms. You can handle multiple platforms out of Uberall. To bring a certain standards into it, and this helped us a lot to have a more professional look and feel, to rank better in Google search, to be better findable, to create more trust, and to also be corporate identity compliant, what is of course also for us, for protecting our brand, a very, very important aspect.
Yeah, and I think it was simple things when we jumped into the topic. It was like, I remember that you guys had great pictures, but the picture was not displayed in the right format on Google and things like that. Very small details that then in the end, yeah, really didn't display the brand in the correct way that we could easily fix. That was an easy fix, but in the end of the day, on scale, that was an issue that we faced at the beginning.
I also believe it simply makes sense to give the offer to the network to take it off the people's table. It's not the core expertise, how to handle those profiles and how to manage the online presence. The core expertise is how to sell real estate, and we have to support him with the good tool set and the processes around that.
Absolutely. They should focus on the sales at the end of the day, and not everyone is a digital native, especially not in Europe. Taking care of just Google was an issue, then going to Apple, Bing, and the other ones, even less, more of a focus from most of the businesses.
Exactly. What I mentioned before, I mean, also not every office was even present in every channel which was relevant. And also you could close those gaps with a central platform-based management of the online profiles. And other than that, we detected one more interesting use case, which was in case one of those independently owned and operated businesses was leaving our network, we also had, of course, no control about their Google My Business profile once they left. So it's a big headache to then remove the profile from Google when you have no control over it.
So it was in the end we started a process in adding them, so we have a clean process, but also the offboarding at the end of the day, taking care of this. Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear when we speak about like what impact we could get. But you worked for a big telco company before. You're very used to choose technology and then roll it out in cluster regions or in bigger rollouts to the market. So what in your experience is the most relevant factor choosing a SEO tool? What were you looking for when you looked at the market, and then also in terms of Uberall?
Okay. So first of all, when we select a new tool or technology, it must be clear that there is a certain problem to be solved. So we do not search for solutions for problems we don't have. So a certain problem statement, a certain use case to be solved needs to be clearly in place. Other than that, for us specifically as a franchise organization, it's extremely important with this complexity I explained in our structure before, that we have a partner understanding that structure, understanding the complexity, and finding solutions which are kind of feasible for the specific environment we are having. And in addition to that, of course, a system, a tool, a technology must be extremely user-friendly, extremely easy to be used. The value add must be very, very simple to be understood. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter how good a solution is if it's not easily understandable in the first place, and it's not like completely super easy to be used and user friendly, it will not be facilitated or really used in the end anyways. And other than that, if you have a reasonable nice price tag, it's also a plus.
Yeah, definitely. We could definitely go to market with a bigger scale here in this project. And so in the end of the day, Uberall was the solution of choice, helping you out with this issue. And when we go into it, it's very, just quickly to give everyone here like a brief overview how it works. Like we enter the raw location data into the Uberall platform, and then we are distributing that at the end of the day to all the search engines, social media, navigation systems, voice searches, and even on the websites in locator and local pages in some terms. And like what Christoph and the team did basically was like they decided who will be the user management on local level, but we still have on overall, let's say we're in the driving seat and see how all markets are performing overall, who's doing better, can improve through the analytics in the end of the day. So we really did that. And especially for the user management, some things can really be adopted. I saw that there was a question, how do they manage the reviews, for example, and who's responsible for that? There's many ways to set it up, but maybe Christoph, you want to say a bit like, how do you manage that on country level? Who is answering the reviews?
Okay, so it's very dependent on the individual preference of the certain country. As you teased already now, I mean, in the platform, there are various options. You could give a lot of permissions regards to that to the certain office owner, or you could do it completely central from a regional headquarter perspective. You have the option to generate automatic responses. You can handle templates, or distribute templates and template answers also to the office owners to use them. So there are different options available in the platform, and it's really very, very region specific. If the region prefers to have stronger control over this for the offices, or if the region wants to give more freedom to the network and to the offices. The point is that it's adjustable and customizable to a certain specific needs. First place. Second thing to be recognized is that Either way, the region keeps an overview, like the headquarter keeps an overview of what is happening and could interfere if needed.
Perfect. I hope that answers the question from the audience here about the reviews. And I think in the end of the day, what we all want was more visibility. But what were the findings that you had in the different markets? I mean, I think we learned a lot, and every market was a bit different. But maybe you can summarize from your side, what were the key findings?
Yeah, the key findings, I think I mentioned it before, it was a very fragmented situation, how the profiles were handled. We had some offices across our network doing this really, really well, but then they used an agency, for example, to do this for them. And then it was very, very cost intensive to have a proper online profile coverage across the different platforms. We had offices in place having no understanding about this at all, maybe being only present in one of the relevant platforms, sometimes even in none of the relevant platforms, and something in between, offices which were present in some of the relevant platforms, but maybe used not so ideal pictures. Maybe use the Remax office name not in a CI compliant way. Maybe they did not have a complete service description. Some relevant information was missing. Maybe they had no proper texting for the service descriptions and didn't use the right keywords and so on and so forth. So there was a big range of different situations, different look and feels. And the standardization is really key here to push it to certain quality standards. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. And I think local SEO is key here. The idea was really to help you and the markets with minimum effort to have a maximum output with better online visibility for all locations, more interaction. At the end of the day, we wanted to have more impressions on the map to get more interactions with everyone out of that, especially more calls, more website click, more route clicks towards the different agencies. In the end of the day, the full control of the corporate identity, of the branding went back to you on a country level that was not there before. And we are improving the positive brand image here with an efficient data management and time-saving aspect. Every market is different in size, in terms of also challenges, but we're adapting towards that. Yeah, I would say thank you. First of all, Christoph, would you like to add anything on the key findings at the end of the day? I know we are a bit into the project already. The last words from your side.
I think the key things were said. Other than that, the rollout, in my opinion, in most of the countries so far went pretty smoothly. I think it's the rollout process is simple. It's pretty hands-on, so there is not a big obstacle. It can be done smoothly. The price tag is kind of nice, and the adoption rate, like the acceptance rate from the office owners, is quite good because it's easy to be explained where the value is. Because in the end, it will lead to not only to better brand protection from our perspective, but simply to more business for the office owners, and as soon as they understood that, it was easy.
Perfect, Christoph. Big thanks here on that, first of all. But if there are any questions, we're happy to take them. So let me have a look in the Q&A. And so here we have another question coming in. Christoph, I think that is for you. I would like to know if Remax Uberall campaign is funded centrally or by the franchises. Do you have the choice to take part, or is it compulsory? So I think that's directly one to you.
Yeah, exactly. So we as Remax Europe, as a central European headquarter, we do not fund it. What we are contributing to this is making the deal with Uberall and getting the best possible conditions in place. But then the regional headquarter takes that over and funds that then for their offices. So the office owner doesn't have to cover it, but the regional headquarters then cover the cost for their offices. As I said in the beginning, second part of the question, the participation for the offices is not mandatory because it's per contract not possible to make those things mandatory. coming back again to the independently owned and operated businesses. But since the value proposition of the solution was very clear, the acceptance rate, like the roller quota, was always very good from the beginning.
Perfect. I think that's for the moment. If there are any more questions, otherwise, okay, perfect. I think that covers it. Otherwise, I would really like to thank you, Christoph, being here with me today. It was lots of fun as always. And yeah, Lauren, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christoph and Manuel. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded, and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to our speakers and to the Uberall team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.